Hey, 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 it's Friday. Which means that I'm here to do my Friday Live at 5. So fun. Okay, I'm just getting my second screen ready here so that I can see if anybody does any comments. It means I have to open it live. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm good. I'm actually broadcasting this to my public business page as well for the very first time, which is kind of fun. I've decided I'm going to start doing my Friday Live at 5s there too, because that way we can start to get the word out about the amazing work that we are doing to the rest of the world, which we are kind of keeping a little secret here in our group right now. So, yeah, we know there's lots more female physicians out there who are burned out who need to learn some life hacks to beat burnout, which I'm going to teach you about one of them today. So, yeah, I decided I'm going to start putting this work out there too. Which means also you can share anything you like with people too. So if you're here right now, give me a little heart or like and a hashtag live, because as we know, that makes things more visible on Facebook. I want to tell you guys just a couple quick things before we launch into what I'm going to teach about today. One is that I'm going to plan another open coaching soon. I got Becky on that, so feel free to send me a DM if you'd like to be coached on the next live open coaching that I do here in the group. I won't broadcast that one live out there in the ether. It'll just be here in our Facebook group. Also, please make sure you're on the email list. If you're not yet, you can go to my website and sign up. I've got some fun freebies coming, hint, hint. But also, there's something big coming later this summer that you will want to know about. Okay, today I'm going to chat about being willing to let go of our painful stories. So, I'm thinking about a couple of things as I bring you this topic. So, the one that is most on my mind right now. Hello, Jill. Okay, good. I'm glad to see you posting here because I was worried that maybe my sound wasn't working. The one that is most on my mind right now is this. I am in a Facebook group that was created by a brilliant guy named James Wedmore, who is a business coach. And I'm in his Facebook group working through a free challenge that he's been doing lately. And as I've been working through this challenge, someone posted in the group this morning, and when I was just laying in bed, kind of scrolling my phone, getting ready to wake up, I saw this post from someone who was saying she was desperate to figure out how to make this stuff work for her, and she was thinking about signing up for this program. And as we sort of talked a little bit back and forth via messages, it became clear that she's really stuck in her pain story and that it's getting in the way of her being able to take action. So I think this is a super important topic for us to address here. Now, I'm also thinking about 3 clients that I've coached this week on separate issues, but that very much relate to this topic. So the first one is one of my clients came to see me for a session talking about how she's believing that she's never going to get enough sleep because her kids don't sleep. Okay, so as we went on to talk about this a little bit, she was elaborating on a lot of the concessions that they've been making in their house, in terms of how she sits in a chair out in the hallway with her while her kids are falling asleep, how they're allowed to come into her room at night, and how her husband doesn't get up very often to deal with the kids. It's mostly her. So what became clear is that she hasn't been enforcing any boundaries, and there haven't been any consequences for any of the other people in her life for her, hi Cindy, to not be getting any sleep. Okay, so there's one story, all right? And it's very painful for her to just think that this is the way my life is going to be from this point on. The second story is a client of mine who's been off on a medical leave for some time. And she came to the session and was talking about how a place where she had worked had decided to not renew her privileges. Okay, and for her, this was a painful experience because she was making it mean that she was never going to get back to work because she couldn't see how it was possible for her to do her work if she didn't have active privileges. Okay? Because she's making it mean that any of the places around her that are close to her, she's not going to be able to work in. Third story, okay? This client of mine came to one of our sessions and was mentioning how she feels really stuck in the belief that the government doesn't care about physicians at all or about patients, because if they did, they'd open up more faux spots in the region where she lives to solve the problem of a very large number of orphan patients, because new grads don't want to start practices in fee-for-service, they want to work in the faux. Okay, so all three of these stories have something in common. A lot of things in common, actually. 3 amazingly brilliant, capable female physicians. Okay, they have created so much in their lives. They have accomplished so much in their lives. 3 women who are integrating new information in their minds. 3 women who are currently stuck in rationalizing their painful stories, okay, with thoughts like, I'm going to be exhausted because I'm going to be exhausted forever because my kids don't sleep. It's tricky because it sounds like a fact, right? But as we unpacked it further, we realized that there's lots of things that are taking place that are potentially things that could change, okay? In the second example I gave you, this physician who's on disability right now is believing that because her privileges didn't get renewed because she doesn't currently have a license, that this is defining the way her future is going to go, right? I think we all know for a fact that what's happening in the present circumstance doesn't determine what's happening in the future for her, right? But it's very hard for her to see that. It feels like fact that this is happening, okay? It feels like fact that she's going to be stuck in this perpetual state indefinitely because she doesn't know what the future looks like. It's the uncertainty that's making it difficult for her to see things any other way. Okay. In the third case, this physician is really believing the real problem with the fact that, in her mind, with the fact that there aren't more faux spots, is that she's believing she has to take on all these extra patients because she thinks patients have nowhere to go. Now, interestingly, I think that she thinks patients have nowhere to get quality healthcare. Interestingly, I think that most of us could argue that patients can still get healthcare if they can't see us. And in fact, if we take on more patients than we can see, they're still going to wind up going to the same place to get healthcare. They're still going to wind up in walk-in clinics and in emergency rooms. So it's not really a solution to the problem at all if we just decide to take on more and more and more, because we have a finite resource of time. Okay? All of these women were seeing these stories like they were facts, but they really actually are just thoughts. They're their interpretation of the circumstances in their life. Okay? I can show you, right, with all those examples, how someone else might be able to see things a different way. How an example of the woman with the children who aren't sleeping, right? How maybe there's some strategies and techniques that they can start to implement with the kids. How maybe if she's not getting any sleep, she needs to leave the house a couple of nights a week so that she can get some sleep, right? We can all see how something different might work out. In the example of my client who's off work, right? I can see how as she gets her license back, as she's well enough to return to work, then she may have to go through some steps to work towards getting privileges back, but that there's a process to follow and a way in which this can happen, right? Even though we don't know the timeline or where this is going to take place or any of the details right now, okay? With my third client that I was talking about, I gave you the example of how patients, if we think that patients don't have a physician, so we need to take on more people. Inevitably, they end up in the same places anyway, because when we exceed our capacity, where do they go? They go to walk-in clinics, they go to emergency rooms. Okay? So we're not really helping solve the problem anyway. This is a quote I heard from Martha Beck, who's like the grandmother of life coaching. Okay, she's Oprah's life coach, by the way. She came and did a session in a coaching program that I'm in, and she said, you got to be more attached to your recovery than you are to your pain. Okay, this is very much alive and well in my life, and I try to think about applying this every day when I get stuck in my own pain and when I get stuck in thinking that my own struggles are fact. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I came to a coaching session one morning speaking to my coach, and I was saying I felt really stuck because I wanted to start to take some more free time, like actual free time for me, okay? Because in general, my free time, where I don't have my kids, is what I define as free time right now. I'm on maternity leave. I have a 3-month-old baby. My free time is when I go to an appointment or when I come here to work. And the problem with that is that that's not really free time. I'm still working, and it takes an energy expenditure for me. It does not fill me up. And so what I started to realize was that I wanted to start to take an hour every day that was just for me, where I could do whatever I wanted with it, okay? And what was happening was I felt like I couldn't do that because I was making myself feel guilty for doing it, because the person who helps me care for my kids when I'm not around is my father. And I was telling myself, I'm sure dad would really like an hour off. I'm sure dad is really going to think I'm selfish for taking this time for myself. I'm sure that dad would really love it if I spent more time with the kids and gave him some time off. What was the thought error in here? The thought error when I was stuck in my pain story is that I was believing that the only people who could take care of my kids were me or my dad, right? I couldn't see that it was possible that there was maybe somebody else out there in the world who is capable of looking after my children. I also am not able to see that it's possible that maybe there's different ways he and I can hand off to make it work so that he gets time off and I get time off, right? It like totally shuts down my problem solving capacity when I'm stuck in my pain story. So this is why I say we've got to be willing to let go of our painful stories to start to think about our lives in new ways, to start to problem solve. We've got to be curious if we want to start to come up with solutions. We've got to learn how to access our right brain if we want to get there. So this is all centered around our willingness to let go of our painful beliefs, even if they seem true. Willingness to let go of our painful stories, even if we can rationalize their truth. And I know there's some people here who really need to hear this message. Knowing things intellectually, okay, knowing like I should be able to do this, it could be hard to do such and such thing, this could create a problem. Knowing things intellectually is different than actually feeling things and actually doing things, actually applying things in our lives. Okay, so the goal in coaching isn't rote memorization of cute or pretty thoughts. It's application, it's taking action, it's feeling into things. Our life is experienced in our body and not in our brains. So what gets in the way of applying coaching is this, whether or not we're willing to stop fighting for our painful beliefs. So this is the process of how you do this, okay? First thing you do is you write out on paper all of the painful thoughts you have, okay? The whole story. And then you just put it down and you walk away, okay? And after you put it down and you walk away, then what you want to do is you want to come back and you want to look at your thoughts. And you want to start to see what kind of themes are emerging. You want to take a non-judgmental look at them and really start to see, like, what am I thinking? What am I believing here that is feeding into this pain that I'm experiencing? And what do I do in response to that? And what result does that create for me? Okay, so using this tool called the model. I have some previous videos in the Facebook group that describe this tool called the model. This is the primary tool that I use in coaching to help people really understand the impact of their thoughts. Okay, then we want to start to ask ourselves some questions, right? Like, is this serving me? Is this creating the result that I want? If I wasn't feeling stuck in this painful story, if I was feeling hopeful, if I was feeling empowered, if I was feeling inspired, if I was feeling driven, what might I bring to the table here? What might I start to think? What might I start to feel? What might I start to do differently? And you want to really start to answer these questions. Here's the reason why I'm encouraging you to let go of your painful stories, to be willing to let go of your painful stories. Because when you fight for your painful stories, you are victimizing yourself. I'm going to say it again. When you fight for your painful stories, you are victimizing yourself. When we're willing to let go of our painful stories, we're more open and willing to receive love, to receive kindness, and to receive compassion from ourselves. I heard this example in a coaching session recently, and I just wanted to share it with you all. I want you, if you have a daughter, I want you to think about your daughter, or if you have like a close friend or a younger female mentor, I want you to think about her. If she was telling herself the painful story that you are telling yourself about something going on in your life, okay? If she was doing that, I like to say if it was my daughter and someone was talking to her in the way that I talk to myself in these painful stories, I'd like just outright clobber them. Then I like to think, okay, what if that female who I'm like maybe a mentor to, or I'm her mom, right? What if she came to me and said, Mom, this is how I feel when you talk to me like this. It's really painful when you talk to me like this. What would we do in response to that? We would say sorry. We would build them up. We would do something really nice for them, right? We would find all the ways in which we believe that they are whole and they're complete and they are worthy. This is what we can do for ourselves when we have told ourselves a painful story time and time and time again. Okay, so I want you to start to think, if somebody really dear to you came to you and brought you the painful story that you are telling yourself about something that's going on in your life, what would you tell them? How would you respond to them? And then turn that inward toward yourself. Okay. Now, if you're hell-bent on hanging on to your pain, your energy is going to sound a little bit woo-woo, okay? But we become, when we're hell-bent on hanging on to our pain, we become very negative. We become disgruntled. We become frustrated, we become bitter, and we literally repel what we want from our life. We repel the very thing we want, which is relief of the pain. So we have to be willing to entertain that something better is possible. Okay, coming back to my clients. One of them was willing to let a new thought in. The mom who was having trouble with her kids in their sleep. New thought. My kids are resilient and strong. From that place, she was able to come up with a whole slew of ideas about how she could start to work on developing independent sleep with her children. Second client was willing to let in this thought. Maybe I don't even want to go back to the area of medicine that she practices in. Boom! Like, pretty incredible, right? I asked her, like, do you even want to go back? And she was like, maybe the reason I'm creating so many barriers in my brain is that I don't even want to go back. Now, the third one, I haven't had a chance to follow up with since we did this coaching. but she really seemed to want to hang on to the belief that there are no good healthcare options. And if she happens to be listening to this, I just want to offer her that, would you say those words to your emergency room colleagues if they were in this room and they were listening to you, that there are no good options for patients who don't have a family doctor? I think it's a valid question to ask. I'm hoping she'll hear this and it'll just open her mind to the fact that she is not responsible for taking on all of these people and providing care to all of these orphan people. Okay, this is what happens when we're willing to let go. When we're willing to let the grip on the painful story go just a little bit. Okay, people who have failed exams, like for instance the CFPC, get their CFPC. People land their dream jobs in medicine. People recover from burnout. People get home earlier so they can spend time with their kids in the evening. People stop crying in their cars. People take days off. People play with their kids. People learn to love themselves. People sleep more. People spend time where they're not distracted and they're not suffering from the tension of wanting to be doing something else. When they're with their kids, they spend time present with their kids. People save more money. People repair relationships. People make more money. People lose weight. People start businesses. I can list thousands and thousands of results that come from letting go, being willing to let go of our painful stories. In my case, I went from a burned out, suicidal new mom to a self-confident, self-loving doctor, mom, entrepreneur, coach. It is possible to let go of our painful stories. That's all I have for you guys. Enjoy your Friday. And please let me know in the comments if you have a painful story that you are committed to letting go of, if you have a painful story that you have let go of, if you have one that you feel like you are stuck in. Just acknowledging the painful story that you're telling yourself is the first step in this process. Okay, love you all. Mwah. Bye.